It was just another quiet evening in Brookline. The sky glowed orange and the street lamps were starting to buzz to life. Kids had gone home, and the smell of dinner drifted from open windows. On the corner of Maple and 6th, a young man stood outside the corner store, his hands in the pockets of a dark hoodie. He wasn't bothering anyone, just waiting. The neighborhood had seen scenes like this before, too many times. A hoodie, a quiet face, and suddenly people assumed the worst. A police cruiser rolled slowly down the block, tires crunching on loose gravel. It pulled to a stop near the young man. 2 officers stepped out, one older, with hard eyes and a stiff jaw, and one younger, who kept glancing at his partner, like he didn't want to be there. The older cop stared at the man in the hoodie. No words yet, just suspicion, like he was already guilty of something. The young man looked up, calm, not afraid, but anyone watching could feel it. The tension in the air, like a rubber band stretched too far. A couple walking by slowed down. A woman across the street pulled out her phone. She had seen things like this go bad before. The officer moved closer, his hand near his belt. In this neighborhood, people learned early that silence could still shout, and right now everything was screaming. The story was just beginning. The older officer stepped forward, his eyes sharp and cold. "What are you doing out here so late, kid?" he demanded. The young man's voice was steady. "Waiting for my sister. She's inside the store." He nodded toward the door. The officer didn't seem convinced. "Why the hoodie? Trying to hide something?" The young man hesitated, but didn't back down. "It's cold." The younger officer shifted uneasily beside his partner, his eyes flickering between the man and the older cop. He said nothing. The crowd near the corner store started to grow. Some stopped walking, their phones coming out to record. Whispered voices floated through the air, a mix of worry and anger. "Hey, just let him be," a voice said from the crowd. But the older cop ignored it. Suddenly the officer grabbed the young man's arm and shoved him against the brick wall. "Don't lie to me," he growled. The young man's face stayed calm, but his eyes flicked around, watching the people gathering. No one moved closer, but everyone was watching. The younger officer looked away, biting his lip. He didn't speak up, but his hands clenched at his sides. The man in the hoodie said nothing, even as the older cop roughly frisked him. His silence made the tension in the air thicker, almost unbearable. Someone in the crowd whispered, "Why does he have to be so rough? He's just a kid." The older officer tightened his grip. "People like you think you can do anything," he spat. But the young man didn't fight back. His quiet strength made the crowd uneasy, unsure what would happen next. The air was thick with fear, anger, and something unspoken. The feeling that this was wrong. And then, out of nowhere, a black car pulled up to the curb, changing everything. Even as Officer Graves kept his grip firm, the young man in the hoodie didn't shout or struggle. His calm face didn't match the chaos around him. It was like he was holding something inside, a quiet kind of strength no one expected. The crowd watched closely now, whispering among themselves. "He's not acting like someone who's done anything wrong," an older woman said softly. "Why are they treating him like this?" A teenager holding a phone nodded. "Yeah, it doesn't make sense, just because of the hoodie. It's like they want to punish him for who he is." Officer Graves sneered at the murmurs. "People like you think you can get away with anything," he said coldly, tightening his grip. "You're just trouble waiting to happen." The young man stayed silent. His eyes didn't flash with anger or fear, only a quiet patience. The woman across the street looked at him with sympathy. "He's just a person," she whispered. "Not a threat." The younger officer shifted nervously, biting his lip. He looked like he wanted to say something but didn't know how. More people gathered, phones out, faces full of concern. The tension grew heavier, like a storm about to break. No one dared to move closer, but everyone wanted the truth to come out. The young man's calm made the crowd question what they had believed about him, and about the officers. In that moment, it wasn't just a man in a hoodie anymore. It was something bigger, about fear, judgment, and the weight of what it means to be seen. Then suddenly, a sleek black car pulled up to the sidewalk. It was out of place in the quiet neighborhood. The doors opened, and a woman stepped out. She moved with purpose. Everyone noticed. Officer Graves' face changed. The tension shifted. Something new had arrived. The crowd fell silent, waiting to see what would happen next. The black car's engine hummed softly, as it rolled to a stop beside the gathering crowd. People turned, curiosity turning into surprise. The neighborhood was used to police cars and delivery trucks, but not this sleek, dark vehicle, that looked more at home downtown than on this quiet corner. The door opened, and a woman stepped out. She was dressed in a sharp suit, her posture straight and confident. She didn't rush, but every step she took seemed to hold the power of someone used to being noticed and listened to. She moved straight toward the young man in the hoodie, who was still pressed against the brick wall. The crowd parted silently, watching her approach like she was the answer to an unspoken question. Without hesitation, she reached out and gently placed her hand on his shoulder. The touch was soft, familiar, not like a stranger's, but like someone who knew him well. Officer Graves froze. His usual sneer vanished, replaced by something else: pale shock. The younger officer's eyes widened, and he looked down at the ground, unable to meet anyone's gaze. The woman said nothing at first. Her eyes met the older officer's, steady and unyielding. The street seemed to hold its breath. Whispers rippled through the crowd, mixing with the clicking of phones still recording. This wasn't just another stop on the street. This was something different, something bigger. Officer Graves took a step back, his hand dropping from the young man's arm. The woman's silence spoke louder than words. The moment was heavy with meaning. Something about who this young man was, or who the woman was about to change everything. And just like that, the balance of power shifted on that quiet corner. The woman finally spoke, her voice calm but firm. "He's my son." The words hit the street like a thunderclap. The crowd gasped. Phones lowered for just a second, faces turning toward the officers. The woman was the mayor of the city, a fact that quickly became clear to everyone watching. Officer Graves' face drained of color, his eyes flicked from the young man in the hoodie to the mayor standing beside him. The bravado was gone, replaced by fear and something close to shame. The younger officer's shoulders sagged, relief and guilt mixing in his eyes. He avoided meeting anyone's gaze. The mayor didn't say anything else, she just stood there, her hand still resting gently on her son's shoulder. It was a quiet kind of protection, but it held more power than any shouted command. The crowd held its breath, watching the scene unfold like a movie. The officers slowly stepped back, their hands lowering away from the young man. Whispers filled the air. The mayor's son. No wonder the officer froze. Why didn't they know? The young man finally looked up and met the mayor's eyes. There was a soft smile on his face, not proud, but relieved. The woman turned to the crowd and said quietly, "He's just like any of you. Wearing a hoodie doesn't change who he is." The mayor's presence changed everything that night. The officers knew their actions had been wrong, and so did everyone watching. The tension in the air shifted from anger to a stunned kind of understanding. What had started as another routine stop on a city street had become a lesson no one would forget. For a moment, power wasn't about uniforms or authority, it was about truth and love. The crowd began to disperse slowly, the weight of what they had seen sinking in. The night had revealed something hidden beneath the surface, something powerful and real. And it all started with a simple hoodie. The next morning, the video of the encounter was everywhere. It spread quickly on social media, shared by thousands who couldn't believe what they had seen. The clip showed the tense moments, the rough treatment, and then the sudden change when the mayor arrived and revealed her son's identity. People across the city were talking. Some were angry at the officer's behavior, others were proud of the mayor for standing up for her son, and for everyone who wore a hoodie and faced unfair judgment. The mayor held a press conference. She spoke directly to the city with a calm, steady voice. "No one should be judged by what they wear," she said, "or by how they look. Everyone deserves respect and fairness." She didn't just defend her son, she spoke for the whole community, reminding people that fear and suspicion shouldn't decide how we treat one another. Officer Graves was quickly suspended while the city launched an investigation. The younger officer remained silent, but many hoped this would be a moment of change for him too. The neighborhood, once full of quiet fear, started to feel different. People talked more openly about justice and fairness. The video made it clear how quickly people jump to conclusions, and how important it is to look beyond appearances. Still, the mayor's words weighed heavily on the city. The incident wasn't just about one stop, it was about deeper problems, about power, prejudice, and the need for change. The young man in the hoodie became a symbol, not because of trouble or fear, but because of quiet strength and the truth he showed that night. The mayor's presence reminded everyone that power could be used for good, or to protect the people who need it most. And for once on that corner of Maple and 6th, the truth was louder than fear. Days passed, but the memory of that night stayed alive in the city. The young man in the hoodie walked the streets again, this time without fear, without suspicion. People who saw him before now saw a person, not just a figure in a dark jacket. The mayor kept speaking out, pushing for change in how police treated the community. She reminded everyone that no one should be judged by the clothes they wear or the color of their skin. It was a lesson many needed to hear again and again. The officers involved faced consequences, but the real work was just beginning. The neighborhood had a long way to go before fear and judgment would truly fade. Still, for one night the city saw something real. They saw a young man whose calm bravery shook the system. They saw a mother's love change the course of a tense moment. And they saw the power of truth, shining bright under the streetlights. The hoodie didn't make him a threat, it was just a piece of clothing like any other. What mattered was what was inside him: patience, courage, and hope. And in that hope the city found a small spark, a spark that could grow into something better. This story is a reminder: sometimes the hardest battles are fought in silence, in the spaces between fear and understanding. And sometimes all it takes is one quiet moment to change everything. The young man in the hoodie walked away that night, not just as someone misunderstood, but as a symbol of strength, reminding everyone that beneath every face is a story worth knowing. And that story is what truly matters.